This is a millipede, for those of you who didn't know. As you can see, they have this particular one has a cylindrical body, almost very worm-like, and despite their name, they don't actually have a million legs. They only have about 100. Depending on the species, it can vary. This here is one of my new pet millipedes. Her name is Toft, as in from Avatar, for those of you who are familiar. And as you can see, she is very active. She's also very friendly. She has only nibbled me once. And she is a female, which you're not going to be able to tell from this side because she is being a pain in the butt. Come back this way. There you go, girl. Alright. She is a female. And how do I know? Because when you watch her walk, look from the side. Males will actually have a gap along the side, somewhere shortly behind their head, on the 7th segment, technically. The male's legs on their 7th segment are modified for grasping. So, from an underneath view, the male will look like they have 2 dots, or of legs, almost. From the side, a male will have a gap where those modified legs are, and a female will not. So this one is a female. She doesn't have a gap. Fortunately, I can't show you a close-up because the camera is not going to pick it up very well. But she's trying desperately to get away from me, so I'm going to put her in this cup. There we go. And put a moist towel over her to keep her nice and moist. Now, these millipedes are kept sometimes as pets. They're becoming more and more popular. However, if you're like me and you're interested, you might be pretty frustrated by trying to find care information. So that is why I'm going to make this video. Now, I don't know a whole lot more than what I found on the internet, but it took a lot of research to find it out. This here is my cage. This is just a basic size plastic shoebox. And I just cut some holes, poked some holes around the outer edge of the lid. Almost everything in here is collected from outside. The substrate you want to keep nice and moist. You can use peat moss, as I have here, or you can use coconut fiber. And as you can see, it's not very light. It's a nice dark brown color. That's because it is nice and moist. You want it to be damp. You don't want to be able to squeeze it and water runs out of it. You don't want it dripping because that can create puddles that will drown the millipede. Also, if it's over moist and you don't have enough holes for ventilation, you may end up with some mold and mildew. Mold will be long, stringy, kind of fuzzy looking. Anything with mold, throw it away right away because it could make your millipede sick. Mildew are little green or white-ish dots, almost looks like lichen on a tree. Most of the time you can easily just wipe that off. You want some things for your millipede to climb on, as here. They don't climb a lot, depending on the species. Some do more than others, but provide it anyway. Also, something to hide under, as in here, or a piece of a bark, a half log, like you can find in the pet industry, will work just well as well. And just put them in there. And everything, these two were collected from outside, and you're probably like, thinking, well, how can you do that? Won't it make him sick? Or will I bring in some guests that I don't want? Rinse everything off that you collect from outside, and then bake them in an oven at 250 degrees for about 30 minutes, and that will sterilize, sanitize everything. Even little microbe bacteria will be very, very dead from that. It'll kill almost anything. Try to make sure there isn't anything living on it, like a spider, before you put it in the oven, because otherwise you'll have some fireworks. You want to mix in your substrate, as you can see this. These are pieces of leaves. They're dried leaves, also baked as well, and I just mix them in the soil. Use oak leaves. You can use maple leaves, any kind of other hardwood as well. but oak seems to be generally across the board, people have owned millipedes, one of their favorites. These here are 2 oak leaves. There are 2 different species, you can't really tell, I guess, from these. But this one here, which has the deeper index and bigger points on them, is a black oak. And this here is a pin oak. As you can see, it's not, the valley doesn't go in as far, so the leaf is wider, and the points aren't quite as big. This is a pin oak. White oak looks almost exactly like this, only instead of having pointed edges, it has, these edges would be round. Any of the 3 species will work fine. Just bake them at 250 for 30 minutes, crumble them up, tear them up into little pieces, and mix them up into whatever soil you're going to use. Peat moss or coconut fiber seems to work very well, holds humidity very well, and because it is an organic plant matter, the millipedes will eat it as well as the leaves. Now, for dishes. For the most part, just little caps off of bottles will work fine. You don't want anything really deep for water, even for a larger millipede, because they can drown. If you want to buy a fancier, nicer looking bowl from the pet store, just fill it up, just a very, very thin layer of water. And you can also put some aquarium gravel in there to help prevent drowning. You can also buy a sponge, as you would for a hermit crab, or crumble up paper or a paper towel and make it wet. Again, you just want it damp. You see, no drips. You don't want it dripping. And you can put that in there and they'll get water from that by chomping on it. The bad side with that is you're going to have to frequently replace it. So I prefer bottle caps. I'm using a Sobe bottle cap, which I really love. The Lipton tea bottle caps work very well too, and that's because they don't have an inner edge, which is sharp, which could hurt your millipede. Instead, they attach just along the edge, really thin. You know, it comes off really clean from the bottle ring, and then I just filed down what was there just to make sure nothing was sharp. So it is very easy. It is one of the safest bottle caps you can use. And I have one for water, and I have one for food. This one's a Lipton. Now, as for food, most of the time they're just going to eat your peat or coconut fiber and the leaves that you have crumbled up in there. But you can also offer them fruits and veggies, such as little pieces of apple, like here, banana that had where the outer peel has turned brown and it's starting to go nice and soft. You can also use spinach, lettuce, carrots, cucumbers, and they eat decomposing things generally. So if it's starting to go mushy and kind of brown, the better. Also, in captivity, it is very frequent and very popular to feed them protein, which is a much healthier diet for them. You can use fish food such as pellets, as here, or flakes, best put in a dish so that you can take out the dish and make sure it doesn't get wet. And then it will turn mushy and icky and gross and could smell very bad. You want to use a meat-based fish food. A lot of the cheap fish foods are made from vegetable matter. So check the ingredients, anything that has fish meal or anything like that. Shrimp pellets, frog food, that kind of thing. Just read the ingredients. So I have that in there. I have a little plant just for decoration, doesn't do anything. My leaves, they can hide under, and they're oak, so they will hopefully munch on them. Hopefully. Something else you're going to want is a spray bottle. You're going to want a spray bottle. This here is a 22 ounce, which is amazing size. They 8 ounces and 16 ounces, just like done in no time. Spray down the soil, get it nice and moist before you even put your millipedes in there. Mix it up, mix the leaves, make sure it's nice and damp. And then just as it dries, spritz the top down. You can spritz the top of the lid if you want. Just mist it. Again, make sure you don't have any standing puddles of water because your millipede could drown in them. Right now my soil is moist enough, so we'll just give it a little spritz down. But you don't want to overdo it by any means, or you will have mold and even more mildew. You could also use bark for them to hide under. My bark molded and is no longer in here. Sorry. So this goes through a lot of changes. So, again, here's my setup. It's very simple. If you want to breed your millipedes, again, you're going to have to make sure you have the right sexes. As speak earlier, the males will look like they have a gap towards the front of their body and their legs, and the females won't. So you're going to have to make sure you have one of each sex to start. And they'll pretty much just breed on their own. And when you first start seeing babies, they'll probably look like squirming white maggots, but look really close because millipede babies will have cute little antennae. If there are maggots in there or fly larvae crawling around, you should completely clean everything. If you end up getting mold, completely clean everything. Empty out the substrate, put new in, mix up dry leaves. And if you have any questions, I can try to answer them. Just shoot me a message. See ya.